So hi guys, another blog again, this time with Peter Todd. I don't think Peter needs any introduction, so we'll go direct to the questions. First one, what are you working on nowadays and why do you prefer not to be labeled as a Bitcoin core developer anymore?
Well, it's the second part, which is quite simple. I'm not working on Bitcoin Core right now. You know, and frankly, like, we've had problems with people overstating their contributions. You know, Jeff Garzik, Gavin Andresen, to some extent or another, and Mike Hearn for that matter, you know, they'd like to go say that they've contributed more to Bitcoin Core than they haven't, and, you know, I think it's good to set a good example, and since I haven't been contributing much in the past probably year, calling me a Bitcoin Core developer I think is a bit dishonest. Simple as that.
So what are you doing? Are you now a Twitter personality?
Partly. I've also been to a ton of conferences, although the actual code I'm working on right now is open timestamps, which of course is my timestamping solution. And then even harder thing is then the proof marshal stuff I'm working on, where the difference being open timestamps proves data existed prior to a point in time. Proof marshal proves that the data is unique.
Okay. So you are known as Bitcoin chief naysayer, and you are kind of famous for your pessimism and your adversarial thinking. Is just your personality, or is this something you force onto yourself for professional, technical reasons? And do you think it can be complementary with other more optimistic mindsets in the space?
Well, I mean, I think in security it's just kind of natural. You're going to, you know, the purpose is go think of the worst case scenarios and figure out how to deal with them. But yes, I would say that's definitely a professional thing. You know, I mean, after all, I came from a fine arts background. But fine arts is all about optimism and thinking about cool things and interesting ideas. And would I describe my art the way I describe, say, my security work now? Not at all. Yeah, it's a completely different mindset. And for security, you just do what you have to do, which is think adversarially and talk about when things can fail.
So you're not coming from the typical computer science, cryptographic academic path. You have a degree in fine art. So, and you still be one of the most important players in Bitcoin ecosystem. Do you think you are just an exception, or just Bitcoin skills partially are unrelated to academic traditional path? And do you think what you'd be doing now if Bitcoin didn't exist?
Well, keep in mind that while I finished a degree in fine art, I also did part of the equivalent of a degree in comp sci and also officially part of a degree in physics. Plus I worked as an analog electronics designer for like 6 years at a geophysics startup, so I'm certainly no stranger to math and proofs and all this, and spent many sleepless nights struggling through university calculus and analysis classes. So yeah, I've got some of that background, but I think what the fine arts really brought was sort of a combination, being able to think creatively and being able to think in abstraction about things that don't necessarily fit between like math and, you know, human interactions and so on. And what I found with crypto is that the hard part in crypto for the sort of thing you do in Bitcoin is not the math. The math we do is very simple. Now, under the hood, it's very complex. You know, designing a good hash function is very, very difficult. But once it's done, you've got this very simple little black box. You know, data goes in one end, and hash digest come out the other. That's a very simple construct. But how you use that is the hard part. And what's hard about that is how you map that to people and processes and all these very kind of fuzzy topics that don't really fit into math. Similarly, security, I mean, a lot of security is just being creative about how could you attack something and understanding how these different pieces fit together. You know, having a math background can be good for that, but that's not the only way. And I'll point out, I mean, I'm not unusual in this regard. Like Gregory Maxwell, although he'd be a bit annoyed if I say it this way, but I'll say it anyway, he basically kind of dropped out of high school. Although then he went on and finished his GED or whatever it's called through, you know, standardized tests and all this. So he's certainly no real dropout there, but technically speaking, you know, all he's got is a high school degree. And I'd say he runs rings around me on math.
So what are you doing now?
Well, probably still doing analog electronics design. That's a geophysics startup I worked at.
Okay.
You know, and I quite liked that job. It was a lot of fun, but in analog, I mean, the entire time I worked in that field, I couldn't tell you a single thing that had changed.
Okay.
In Bitcoin, I can't remember all the things that have changed in the past month.
Okay, so all-time highs every day fork are just too many to care about. Major attacks and takeover against Bitcoin have failed. So boring.
Yeah.
So, but let's try to use your attitude right now. What risks or attacks do you see coming?
Well, I mean, with regard to the all-time highs, I just always like to remind people, you know, in the long run, the sun explodes and we all die. So Bitcoin will go to zero one day.
Yeah.
Whether or not everything else has gone to zero at the same time is another matter. But, you know, we'll go to zero. And even the last copy of the blockchain will get deleted. But in terms of more near-term attacks than the sun exploding, I think we're probably going to see regulation. You know, that's their more likely attack. And it's a hard one to defend against because it's partly political. I mean, cypherpunks, they like to talk about defeating regulation with code, but that's only ever part of the game. You know, you enable the politicians to get more breathing room with code. But code by itself doesn't purely, you know, get around regulation. It provides you a way to then bring the political stuff into play.
So you said more than once that technical solution alone cannot achieve a real censorship resistance or resilience against that-level attackers. What else could help? Culture, education, political activism?
I mean, really the latter. And, you know, they all can kind of help and they all can kind of play their role. I mean, I think part of the reason why I go say this is, you know, governments have the ability to, like, destroy all life on the Earth. You know, they've got nuclear weapons, they've got all this really heavy-duty stuff. What prevents them from using these capabilities against us is politics and outrage and writing letters to senators and things like that. You know, this is why, for instance, efforts like China and how they're trying to surveil people to the extent that they'll have files of whether or not you're a good citizen on record that track every single thing you do online, every transaction you make. That's where we don't want to be. That's the point where it becomes very difficult to fight back. You know, if you have an internet where you cannot send a packet without the source and destination being known, there's very little crypto can actually do to help you there. You know, you've already lost the game. What crypto can do is help you get breathing room so that you don't go quite that far. But you certainly can lose the game.
So, you participated to Zcash Trusted Setup ceremony, even if you are very skeptical about it. What do you think about the experiment toward complete anonymity? For example, could trying to implement a feature that increases privacy actually be a problem? Some Chinese miners have said in the past they don't really want privacy features.
I think that's a good example of, I'm glad there's miners outside of China.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, those people are going to go say no to a lot of things. And if they get forced out of the Bitcoin network to increase privacy, that's probably something worth doing. You know, as an example, I mean, while I'm skeptical of Zcash, I'm skeptical of things other than its value proposition. You know, if Zcash worked perfectly, I think it would be a very good thing to add to Bitcoin. You know, if we could do pure private transaction with Bitcoin. What's wrong with Zcash is like nitty-gritty technical stuff and some aspects of how they went and launched it and so on. You know, it's not relevant to them what Zcash should be, which is anonymous transactions. Similarly, I mean, the fact that Zcash exists means that I can always go sell my Bitcoin, buy some Zcash, move my Zcash, and then buy some Bitcoin again. And now I have Bitcoin that's completely unlinked to the Bitcoin that went in. That's a great thing.
So, another block has passed. And thank you very much, Peter, for your positivity about the future. No, thank you very much for what you're doing for Bitcoin and for being here in Milan. And see you next time for the next block.
Yeah, thank you.